Okay, it's me again, and I want to first of all thank everybody who watched my first video when I talked about why black people should consider voting for Donald Trump. Um, you know, for those that approach what I was saying in a logical way and in a respectful way, I appreciate that. However, there are some people who I anticipated would take the other route, and just like I predicted, would say things like, man, you a sellout, you a coon. There's one guy on there that's just going completely off. I mean, vulgar, disrespectful, giving all black people a bad name. And, I think he's kind of cowardly, frankly. Why don't you make a video showing who you are and, say those things where people can see, put a face to the ignorance that you're spreading. But nonetheless, um, I think maybe I should just elaborate a little bit on my logic and why I'm thinking that. First of all, just to let you know, I'm a black man from a black city, from an inner city. I grew up in the hood. I know the struggle. So it's not like I've been privileged or something. And I realize that both of these candidates have their flaws, but I'm using some reasoning here. First thing I look at is the fact that the political system has been this way for a long time, and there hasn't been any change. There hasn't been anything that the Democratic Party in many years have provided to the black community that really gave them some independency, as far as jobs, things like that. Now, granted, there's social programs, but oftentimes those social programs can, in a sense, enslave black people. When I grew up, my parent didn't teach me how to live. They taught me how to survive, taught me how to hide if they knock on the door, to cut the lights off, and taught me all the social systems that I can go through and make money. And they hated Republican Party for no reason. Just because my mom and them hated the Republicans, I did too. She used to be like, hey, if Ronald Reagan get in the office, he gonna take away Christmas. I'm like, Christmas? And who is this Ronald Reagan, and why is he taking Christmas away? So of course, I just grew up believing that all Republicans were, greedy. But when I got older and started thinking about it, I said, man, a lot of us are reliant on the system, and we don't question anything aside of that. And so we just vote Democratic. But when I think about what this new election is presenting, you got Hilary Clinton, who of course tries to make it appear that Donald Trump is setting it up to where the rich get richer and all these corporate companies are going to benefit off of his tax cuts. When strangely, all these corporate companies that she's talking about has donated to her campaign. So you think they just did that for no reason? No, they did it because they know at the end of the day they can pull favors. She is owned by corporate, she's owned by all the donors, all of that stuff. Therefore, there will be no change, especially when it comes to trade deals that are just ruining our economy and taking businesses overseas. Now, Donald Trump, of course, he once played by the same game in the system that's been put in place. Yeah, he had businesses overseas. He was smart because guess what? That's the system and the playing field that he had to play by. As a businessman, you have to do that because I know I used to have a client who wanted to use an American manufacturer. And when we priced the difference between using an American manufacturer and an overseas manufacturer, hands down, we could not compete. It was like $2.50 to manufacture each item in China versus $7.50 in the US. So any smart businessman is going to take that route. But because he knows that system, he knows also the mechanisms that put that system in place and how to change it. So when you look at all the hierarchy of Democrats and Republicans who made those bad trade deals with big corporate, for big corporate, they're not going to touch those because they get kickbacks too. Now, Donald Trump, he don't owe anybody anything as far as his campaign. That's why he says what he wants to say and does what he want to do. They can't say, don't mess with those trade deals because you're going to mess up my money or whatever. So when he makes those decisions, or at least when he pushes those issues, they can't pull his card, and they don't like that. So do you really think these Republicans who've been in office all these years who say we ain't supporting Donald Trump, you think it's really because they feel his rhetoric is bad? Nah. It's because they know that if he gets in office, number one, they can't control him. Number two, he can mess up stuff he could change things that will mess up their pockets. And I think that's the real underlying motive of some of the hierarchy Republicans that ain't done nothing in years are going, oh, this Donald Trump is bad for America. He's all that stuff, whatever. If he was owned by them, if he was a part of their system, and if he was owned by big corporate, they wouldn't say nothing. They'd be like, well, it's just Donald Trump. So I'm not buying the whole, his rhetoric is bad and he's divisive and all that stuff. Nah, forget that. Secondly, if we let Hillary get into office, one of my biggest issues, and I look at the categories, national security, okay? The current administration has made some crucial errors when it comes to national security. First of all, in the last 8 years, we have shown such weakness that we allowed North Korea to go from not having any nuclear weapons to having multiple nuclear weapons, and now we kind of at their mercy. Now we got to negotiate with these guys, and that's weak to me. You don't let them get 8 years. In 8 years, how are they going to develop a nuclear program that quickly without us doing any intervention to stop it except more sanctions? Now listen, we're going to continue our sanctions. Man, forget that. Sanctions aren't working. This dude is willing to starve his people out just to provide himself with military strength, and we did nothing to stop that. And now you look at Iran, worst deal I've ever seen, and Hilary Clinton supports that crap. And not only was it the worst deal that put money in the pockets of our enemy, one of our main enemies, it also drove a wedge between one of our number one allies, Israel, and that's a big problem for me. And so once again, Hilary Clinton supports that deal. And if she gets into office, she's going to honor that deal. And that's a bad deal. I mean, if you know anything about anything, you know that's a bad deal. The bottom line is when you have a country the week of negotiating a contract, still on TV, their leader is telling his people, don't do it, don't do it. Nothing will change. We still hate the Americans. We still hate the Westerns. We still hate Israel. How do you still go forward with a deal like that? That's going to immediately put them back on the map economically. That was a real bad deal. And if she supports that deal, I question her logic too. And so these are some of the major reasons why I'm going Donald Trump, even though he might be more crass, I think he's more practical when it comes to the survival of our way of living, dealing with our enemies in a way that maybe more sensitive people might not agree with, but you got to do that stuff so those same sensitive people can sleep good at night and not have to worry about us getting blown up. And so when you have someone who is that liberal and progressive as Hilary Clinton, even though I'm somewhat liberal and progressive myself, but not to the degree and the detriment of our society and the American way of life, we got to be smart. And I'm willing to kind of overlook some of Donald Trump's personality flaws for that ability to show strength when it comes to foreign countries that look at us right now and say, this is our opportunity to take advantage of their political correctness and their liberal progressive movement that they have going on. And so I'm just thinking long term. I'm not thinking, about all the personality. Oh, and when it comes to personality, last thing, if you know anything about psychology, Donald Trump, he has narcissistic tendencies. He has insecure, tendencies as well. I mean, because he's quick to fight back when anybody challenges him. He really believes that he can do anything, which, if you're smart, you look at that and you say, we can use that to our advantage. Hillary Clinton is a politician. You don't know what you're getting. She would be like a guy that takes a woman out and she says, you know what, baby, I really like ice cream. And he goes, me too. I like ice cream too. And she says, I like long walks in the park. What? Me too. You don't know what he really likes. He's going to tell you what you want to hear until he get what he want to get. And then the real him comes out. versus that guy to just say, hey, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't like none of that stuff, and really I like to just go ahead and cut through all the chasing. Why don't we just get together and do, you know what I'm saying? See, at least you can say, I know what I'm getting. I don't have to sit back and keep one eye open on you. So with Hillary, you gotta always go, what am I really getting? Because you're a politician. Everything she says sounds like it's scripted. And when you look at Donald Trump, when he says, I'm going to do something, you best believe that because he is narcissistic, he will do anything within his power to do it just to prove that he was able to do it. Versus Hillary, who would tell you, I'm going to do this, we're going to do that, because she's a politician. And at the end of the day, she goes, give me your votes, get me in the office, because really, I know I'm not going to be able to do any of that. I need to tell you that, but I'm not going to be able to do it, because at the end of the day, there's people behind the curtain pulling her puppet strings, saying, nah, you're not going to do any of that stuff because you still owe us, because we gave you stuff. And so if you want somebody in office that really can't do nothing but listen to the people who bought her, go ahead, elect Hillary. But at least Donald Trump gives us a chance to shake up the system, to kind of bust up the good old boys party. And, you know, who knows? He might mess around, be great for the nation. But I know one thing, Hillary gonna be horrible for the nation. 4 years from now, especially in the black communities, I don't think nothing will change. So I didn't want to just throw it out there without giving you some of my train of thought. And for those that were commenting on my last post, you know, I mean, bring it again, I guess. And for those that came respectful, I appreciate it. And I see you all at the polls.